The K30 Burb build is about to kick off here, and I wanted to go through all of the parts: powertrain, drivetrain, tires, wheels, all that kind of stuff before I get knees deep into it. So today we're going to go through the engine, transmission, axles, tires that are going to be going on this awesome build. It is very rare that I upload a video when someone doesn't comment, "What's going on with the Burb?" And while the K30 Blazer is occupying prime real estate right now, it will be out of here shortly, and the Burb will be in getting the new Cummins 6BT dropped into it from Big Bear Engine Company. This is the P-Pump model, a 230 horsepower with the Halstead turbo, and it's going to be living in factory trim for a while, as I want to get this guy stabbed in and working. But I'm going to put a couple videos up here that I've done on the Cummins, so you guys can go take a look at those and see why I am so in love with this particular motor. It's bomber. It's powerful. It has tons of torque. It has tons of power. It has a ton of aftermarket support. And you can get a couple hundred more horsepower out of this with a screwdriver. Yeah, it's true. We'll be doing that in later videos, I'm sure. But I'm going to leave it like this right now so I can get it in and start towing heavy things around. But to tow heavy things around, I am going to need a really built transmission. And for that, I have turned to Silver Sport Transmissions. They import the Tremec TR4050. This is a 650 foot-pound rated 5-speed constant mesh transmission from Tremec. It appears down in the South American market in a lot of the heavy-duty vehicles, the Dodge 3500 and others. And Silver Sport brought it up to the US for use in four-wheel drive applications and high-torque applications. And I think it's going to be a great match to the Cummins that I'm putting in. I cannot wait to get this guy stabbed behind that Cummins. And behind the Cummins, I'm going to have some axles. In particular, this 14-bolt AAM 11.5-inch ring gear rear axle. This came out of a 2010 GM, I believe. It's got an 11.5-inch rear ring gear, 373 gears, although I haven't confirmed that yet. Dual piston rear brakes, harmonic balancer on the drive shaft, and a 1470 U-joint. I've done a lot of prep work on this guy, cutting off all the brackets and tabs and everything else that I think I might need. And a shout out to Pivotal Manufacturing for their axle skates and their 12-ton jack stand plates. These allow me to really move around the shop and maximize the space I have in here. And look how easy these things work. I mean, that's awesome. And then when you're done using them, they just go up on a shelf out of the way. So the axle is massive. This thing really is. I mean, when I first saw it, I was just blown away as to the size of this thing. But the fact that it comes with the dual disc or dual piston disc brakes and is still a 14-bolt full floater with the same bolt pattern made this kind of a no-brainer, especially when my buddy Nick had it in his backyard. Now, for the front, I am going old school. I've got the Dana 60 GM passenger drop kingpin front axle. This is somewhat of a unicorn now. Back in the day, this was the go-to axle for hardcore wheeling. And so I still have a soft spot for them. The kingpins, instead of ball joints, are one of the reasons for their durability and long-lasting performance. It's massively overbuilt. It's got tons of aftermarket support. And this one in particular needs a little bit of work. I've polished it down, I've stripped everything off, but I've got to replace a stripped kingpin. This kingpin, believe it or not, is not going in anymore. It's all stripped. So I need to probably weld that guy in and call it good. It's also going to need some sort of traction device, as it is a completely open front end right now with, I believe, 410 gears, which does not match the rear gear ratio. So I'll need to get that resolved. You can see the hub assemblies are all over here. These guys need a lot of work. I got to get all new braking kit for this guy. Yeah, sitting in a field for 20 years will do that to your braking surface. And then what else do we have? Well, over here we've got one of my Cooper Discover STT Pros. I've actually got a bunch over here. Let's take a look at these guys mounted to these Method 305 HD wheels. I've been really happy with the Cooper Discover STT Pro on the Blazer. These tires have held up fantastic, and I figured I'm gonna give them a shot on my all daily driving heavy tow pig application, which is what the Burb is gonna be best at. So these guys are gonna be going in, the engine's set to go, transmission, rear diff, front diff. Oh man, lots of good stuff. Yeah, the old-fashioned way works the best way. A tub of simple green and a lot of brushing. We'll get these guys back down to raw metal where I can check them for cracks and paint them and get them back on the axle. But this is the non-glamorous side that people don't really promote in their videos. The fact that I've spent the last week with a wire wheel and a grinder taking care of 30 plus years of grime on these guys does not make for compelling videos. But it is part of the necessary work if you want to have these guys under your truck and performing flawlessly for years to come. So do not skimp on that part, as miserable as it may seem. Getting this guy back down to the point where I can actually even read the serial numbers again is pretty cool. The axle is going to need to be torn down and rebuilt. I do not see a traction device in there, and so I will need to remedy that with some sort of selectable locker. Upgrade the gear set, replace a bunch of seals and bearings, throw this guy back together and get it stabbed in the front of the Burb. I do not know what my work is set out for me on this axle. I haven't cracked the rear end to see if I've even got a traction device in there. But I do know I'm going to be needing some new brake hardware and rotors and pads and things like that. I'll pull the axles and take a look at those. And if I do need a locker of some sort, that will be getting dropped into this guy also. There's a lot of cleanup still to do on this axle. I basically just stripped everything down. It had a lot of hangers on there that I wouldn't need. And so those came off and all the tubes got polished. And so this guy is a lot closer than it was a week ago, even though it doesn't look like I spent about 12 hours on that guy.